Welcome. Thanks, Wes. You're amazing. Super stoked to have everybody here today for the Macbrained meetup. As we can all see from our agenda, we're running a few minutes behind. We have the meet and greet, food and drinks. Next, we're going to have Chris actually come up and talk, our lovely host here today. And a huge thanks also to Graham and Brett for helping out with this as well. So, Chris.
All right. Oh. What do I do with this? Oh, okay, cool. Hi, how you doing? This is awesome. My name is Chris Ballard. I'm going to keep this super short. I run the IT systems engineering team at Airbnb, so part of what we do is look after the fleet of Macs that are deployed. I think we have about 4,000 right now. Part of what we do at Airbnb, our company's mission is to create a world where anybody can belong anywhere, and that starts with being a good host. And I just want to call out the Macbrained community for being awesome hosts. You guys contribute to open source. You built an awesome community. You help each other out on Slack, and we're super pumped to be a part of that. So I'm going to introduce Brett Demetrius. He's going to talk about what we've been working on. That's it.
Hey, everyone. Cool. Cool. So welcome to Airbnb. Welcome to our home. Happy to have you guys here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Puppet and what we're doing with it at Airbnb. And the title obviously is Diversify Your Environment with Puppet. But I think we all have a pretty good notion of what diversity means to us in a social context. But through the talk, it would be helpful if you guys considered what diversity means to you in the context of IT. With moving forward, so why am I on the stage? Well, mostly because of these guys. So we're in Slack saying, okay, everybody when we wants to host, whatever. And so I started kind of gathering requirements, right? And so first Jason is like, well, Graham already presented this year. He said it's your turn. So here you go. And then he was like, I bet describing how Airbnb using Puppet would be dope. So we're going to talk about some Puppet. Requirement 3 was keep it sexy. So I'm going to be talking about how we're installing certificates with Puppet. So that's not terribly sexy. So keep it in your back pocket. Maybe we'll have some sexy stuff towards the end. And Graham's requirement, it's a secret to everybody. So apparently there is an ogre guarding Graham's requirement. So maybe he'll want to tell us what it is later. Cool. So let's set some context up, right? So then and now, and this is my career, right? So I started with Palo Alto Unified School District. And the community there is basically education first, right? So what does that mean? So imagine an area where everything is driven by education, everything is driven by the need to, educate a child. So what you have is users effectively designing their own environment and how they're using their machines, right? And basically what that means is like, do not disturb me. Like, our management tools just basically needs to guarantee that you can give me my smartboard software, my printers, and maybe a copy of Office, and like I'll do the rest. So we're very hands-off, and we use Casper. I like to think pretty successfully. Like obviously we have our ups and downs, but at the end of the day, we made it work. And Casper was actually pretty key for making us successful at the school district because when the users are bubbling up their requests and they're designing their environment, it creates this need to be like more autonomous, right? So every campus can look different. High schools can look different than middle schools, and 2 middle schools probably don't look alike. And the techs are stationary, right? They're static. So overall, Jamf is going to be a better solution here. So let's go with Airbnb. So our org is security first. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean that every Monday we all hop in a room and we're like, okay, guys, how can we totally make the users' lives suck today? So that's not what we do, right? It just means that we try to achieve a balance. We try to make the user experience good while meeting our patching SLAs that are handed down to us by security, right? Because we're security first, so obviously our tool set is going to be that to make us most secure at our endpoints. We have a strong oversight and review process. So what this means is like, I can't just go one day, commit a bunch of code, and push it all, out There's people that are, pull requests, right? Comments. We do like CI that says like, hey, this is cool. And so we want to make sure that like no bad code is ever going to hit our fleet, right? And what that does is it promotes a lot of transparency and trust via transparency, right? So we actually are very proud that anyone at Airbnb right now can log into GitHub and go see exactly the code that's running on the machine. And I think that's really, really cool. But interesting about Airbnb is we have these things called core values. And we may decide like, hey, security's first and we gotta do these things, right? But we also have this thing called being a host. Hosting to me means you're being accommodating, right? So the needle might swing a little bit more towards the user being able to design their own experience, right? A lot like the school district. So that's important, and keep that in mind. So let's quickly go over our stack, right? So obviously we use Monkey. Monkey allows us to meet our patching SLAs. And it's really it's minimally impactful for the users. We've used Monkey for a long time. Well, I shouldn't say a long time, about a year, but what we started to notice is as our environment started to mature, we had some things that were kind of missing, right? So how do we use Monkey to ensure or maintain state of the machine? Permissions on a file, contents of a file rather, or permissions on a folder. So we decided that we really, really care about state. So let's use tools that can do that for us. So now let's do some Puppet. But first, actually, let's take a step back. So let's make a package that installs a certificate, right? So I told you guys we're gonna talk about how we manage certificates, right? So just for funsies, maybe let's take one approach to installing a cert. So we use Monkey here, right? Like I said. So our tool of choice in this case is gonna be Monkey package, but obviously if you're a Jamf shop, fire up Composer and you're gonna have a great time too. You're probably gonna have a payload, right? And that payload's probably gonna land somewhere, some temporary directory. You're probably gonna create a post-install script that's gonna use security, add trusted cert with some flags. -D is gonna add it to the admin search store. R is result type, which defaults to trust root. K is the keychain, and the keychain takes the payload as an argument. You'll probably spend some time making adjustments to your manifest, or in Casper, you might make a policy. Maybe you want to include an installs check script in Monkey to make sure that each time Monkey runs, we're making sure that payload's there. Or in Casper, you might set up some smart groups, right? Or maybe an extension attribute. So cool, that's gonna work for us. But with Puppet, we don't install certificates, we manage them. And so, here we have some code that's basically, the top level module, which is gonna take 3 arguments, right? Because when we're setting up a cert, it's really not much to it, right? We wanna know a source, where can I find the cert? The SHA-1 of the cert, which is actually pretty important if you're trying to decide, hey, is this cert actually installed? And then the trust level, which actually, in this case, we default to trust root, right? Because that's what the -R flag defaults to. So we're not changing anything in our environment. We're trying to adhere to like the way a Mac works, right? And then we call our code on a module, right? So we have a source. In this case, it looks like our certificate's in the module hosted on Puppet server. We have the SHA-1, and we have the trust level, which we are going to define, but we don't really have to. Cool. So this looks pretty magical, right? If you're just looking at this code, you're like, okay, I either understand it or I'm completely confused, and both are acceptable in this case. But really, this is not magic, you guys. So if you take a look at the code here, so Puppet has providers, right? So what do providers do? They just do work. And it's all in Ruby, and we like to kind of joke and say like, it's Ruby bash, like because basically you're using Ruby like a bash script, more or less. I thought it was funny. And then we make simple arguments that take or I'm sorry, we make simple functions that take arguments, right? So like the last slide where we saw, hey, our function is taking a few arguments. What we have here is, the function to create a certificate, right? And what you'll notice is that it's not terribly different than that post-install script that we just took a look at, right? It's actually exactly the same, except we are passing in the trust level and the cert file in a little different way. So what if I wanted to do something else like destroy a certificate, right? So here's where that SHA-1 comes in, actually. So we use the SHA-1 to determine, hey, are we actually uninstalling the correct certificate, right? Because you could just take the fingerprint and you're golden, right? But again, not a lot of magic here. Like, it uses the same exact commands that you would find in a post-install script on a Mac. So we're not really trying to recreate the wheel here, right? So how do we know if it's installed, right? So Puppet has what's called facts, right? So in this case, you might say like, hey, the certificate's installed, the certificate's not installed. You might have a Boolean, true or false, whatever. But ultimately, this is also not magic. So what you're seeing here is we're just shelling out something into Ruby, right? And then now we have a parsable object, right? And so what we know about Ruby is it's object-oriented, right? So we can actually use the output of this command to create structured data, and then we pop that into a fact, and then we ship the fact to the server, right? Because as we know how Puppet works, at the beginning of every Puppet run, factor's gonna run. It's gonna run my Ruby bash, and it's gonna ship those facts up to the server, and the server's gonna make a decision about what the state of the machine should be. So yeah, so let's make our module more diverse, right? This talks about diversity. And so let's do this. Let's say case facts OS name Windows. So cat's out of the bag, right? What we're doing at Airbnb is we are adapting the tools, the same exact tools that we use to manage Mac OS into Windows, right? And it's really, really easy. And the reason that I like the certificates module example is because if you'll notice, this is very, very similar, almost exactly the same as managing a certificate with Mac OS, right? So my certificate has a location, which is actually the source, right? Because the way that this provider works, you actually have to copy the certificates to the remote host, and then the module takes over and it does what it needs. It does Windows things, basically. So that's your source, right? The Windows module wants a SHA-1. That's weird. So basically, we already know that we have 2 out of 3 things that are common between both operating systems. And so with very, very little code, we're actually able to support Windows more or less with certificates, right? So let's talk about the elephant in the room. And I think this happens everywhere. As Mac admins, I mean, we naturally gravitate away from Windows. At least I do personally. I don't know about everybody else, but it's different, and we generally don't have tools to manage it. And I used to see this a lot at the school district. So where users get to kind of determine their own environment, at the school district, that might mean one day, like Partners in Education decided to just drop 40 Dells on your lap. And you're like, okay, we have Casper, so I can put like recon.exe on it, and that's good, right? Well, no, that actually sucks. So because what's gonna happen is, you're gonna try and pack that image like full of everything, and you might use like, I don't know, we were using like Symantec Ghost back then, but which I don't condone. But eventually, that environment is going to need to change mid-semester, mid-year, and what's going to happen is you're going to go out there and you're going to start touching 40 machines, and then it's going to be like midnight, and you're like, okay, like the union law or something. So then, like, take Airbnb, right? And it's the same thing. I'm not going to lie. So, like, when I got here, we have a lot of Macs. Like, we're a Mac shop. Like, we don't have a provisioning pipeline for PCs. We don't know how to order PCs. I'm sure we have ordered PCs, but like, we're not supposed to, I don't think. At least, and so like, we have Macs. We're a Mac shop, right? We have tools that manage Macs. And so what I noticed is, you'd often find parallels just slinking around. And like, maybe there's a Windows 7. Is it licensed? I don't know. Like, where'd they get the license? Where'd they get Office? Did we buy that? Whatever. Okay, so this is where we're gonna make a decision, right? And we're gonna be like, okay, like, can we solve this problem? Like, this is a big deal. Like, we have multiple machines out there. We're pretty sure we have like, well, I don't know, the Parallels portal says like the licensors are maxed out, so like they're out there somewhere. But I'm here to tell you that diversity is achievable. And it's achievable by capitalizing on overlaps in your OS families and building inclusive support with ease, right? And so maybe you guys, maybe you've already achieved it, right? So maybe you've already achieved it. Maybe you did it without DevOps, right? Like maybe you run Casper and you run SCCM together, and you're like this big company who has like the ability to do that, and you have all these, or you're a big company and you're the only person running both, and that would really suck. But I think that's great. Like if you are able to deliver that to your users, then you're doing a good thing, I think. But if you're in a position where you're gonna say no to Windows, or no to other operating systems, or you say yes, but you don't have a good answer, then adopting Puppet or maybe another DevOps tool, like need I say Chef, might be for you. Because we're so lucky to manage Macs, right? Like, our tools are really good. Like, we can apply a lot of vetted techniques to managing Macs to other families of operating systems, and you'd be surprised what the overlap is. So let's get back to this guy, Graham, Ogre Graham. So Ogre Graham had a secret, but this time he has a rupee. So we're gonna click the rupee, and we're gonna see what Ogre Graham has. We should open source something. Oh, okay. I guess we could do that. So we're not going to open source certificates module because that module is boring. But instead, we're going to take a different route, right? So you all know what SAL is? So SAL is something that Graham wrote, and we've had it in production for quite some time, and we've been fairly successful. But client reporting actually, and this is where I got a lot of respect for Jamf, because that Recon EXE, man, it nails it for the reporting for PCs. Seriously. But reporting is a foundational need, right? So if a client's not checking in, I don't know. So here's Sal. And Sal is the tool that we use for reporting for Mac OS, right? That's a really old picture. Graham, you need to update that. So what we can do here is Sal is open source, so that automatically means it's flexible, right? So how about we make Windows talk to Sal? And so open sourcing is dangerous, not gonna lie. So we're gonna offer you a little wooden sword. We're not giving you the magic sword. We're not giving you the white sword. We are giving you the wooden sword. So you can beat the game with a wooden sword, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, let's do that. So this repo is private. We've been working on this for a little while, but we're gonna flip the bit to public, and we are gonna introduce what's called GoSal. So GoSal is a SAL client written in Go. It currently provides a heartbeat between Windows and Windows and Sal. It's currently aimed at fielding Windows data, so it's not working on Mac OS right now. Excuse me. We have short-term plans to start fielding Puppet data. We should get that done pretty soon. And then we have long-term plans to expand support for Mac OS and maybe even Linux, right? Because we want to diversify. We don't want to really block our users. Cool. So that'll be available to you guys, and no worries. So let's deploy it. So the SAL module exists already. It's on Mac admins. You can just go look at it. You can even contribute if you want. That's weird. But the way the module is set up initially was, right, we can just take a quick look, and this probably makes sense. So if factOS name equals Darwin, right? So, okay, this already has a statement that's looking for Darwin. And so what if we change it to a case statement. And we say, hey, if it's Darwin, let's do the install and the config, and let's like make sure Xcode's there, or the tools are there at least. But Windows, you don't need Xcode. So we're just gonna do the straight install, right? And all we really need to do here is modify the init.pp, the manifest, and when Puppet runs, it doesn't care what OS it's running on, it just runs. It's gonna determine what the OS is, and it's gonna apply the correct config, right? Cool. And so, shameless plug. If you guys wanna contribute to GoSal, you're more than welcome to. This is gonna flash. That flashy thing, it's self-explanatory, I guess. But yeah, okay, so currently GoSal lives in the Airbnb org, right? It sends the minimum data, so basically doesn't do anything. It does something. It needs a lot of work, which I'm committed to doing. And just some fun facts about this screenshot right here. Like this is if you're like logged into Sound, you like look at a client, right? This is a Windows machine. The current in the beta release, right? So some fun facts about this desktop, right? It has no notifications. Everything is green. Obviously, there's just nothing to worry about. It may or may not be an Apple device, according to the icon. This computer has no RAM. It has no processor. It is, in fact, using 100% of its disk. And the screenshot doesn't quite show it, and I was too lazy to put the scroller in, but SIP is definitely enabled. So that's good. Cool. So, I'm sorry. So anyway, that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and take some questions. Uh-oh. I don't know.
Is the intention to make the Go binary cross-platform?
Yes. Thank you, Mike. Dude, I thought that you were going to ask me a really hard question. Absolutely. Yeah.
Which brings me to my next question.
Okay. Yeah. So, obviously we had a gap to fill. We wanted to build for Windows right away. But honestly, y'all know, like everyone here, I'm sure, has like this guilty pleasure where they go on like GitHub and they go into open source projects. My guilty pleasure project is definitely MicroMDM. So I go on that site. Oh, actually, real quick, thank you, Groob, if you're watching, for fixing all of my crappy code in Go. Yeah, my guilty pleasure is going on to MicroMDM and looking at issues, and every time I look at an issue, I'm like, oh man, I definitely can't do that. Like so definitely that's why I picked Golang, because I wanted to do a project that was meaningful and quite frankly pretty simple, and eventually we could use maybe anywhere, right? So clients, cool, fun, cool story. But actually, what if you deployed it to a server? That would work. So yeah, we definitely wanted to have cross-platform support for GoSal. Yeah, I think like actual Airbnb, like we have this like fuzzy one that you can just throw. We should have got that next time.
Catchbox, great. When's the ETA on the public flip for GoSal?
You know what, Graham, you were supposed to do that right now.
Now would be great.
We forgot. Okay, we'll take care of that this evening. Thanks. You want to grab my crappy cocoa? I assure you there is no cocoa in that code base. Oh, crappy Go code? Yeah, it's pretty crappy.
Do you have it deployed at all, anywhere?
We do, yeah. So we're totally dogfooting it right now. I think Sam just fixed the service. Like if you guys go on Mac admins, you can totally just like go look at the SAL module and see what it does. It might not be straightforward how to set it up. Graham's a big proponent of having like a repo called dig files where you can like put exes or binaries and such. But yeah, you go check it out. We've been deploying it. Sam just did a PR today that fixed the service because apparently I actually don't know how to use Windows. So that went out today, and I think we're up to a few clients. I don't know the exact number. Cool.
What upstream SAL changes did you need to make?
Oh,
or
God.
will you need to make? To
Okay.
make this, report Windows devices.
I'm guessing that you've probably looked at the SAL code if you're asking me that question. We were just actually discussing this today, as a matter of fact, because we decided, or we were looking through and we decided that some things do nothing. Nothing actually so far. So GoSal just, if you go look at the views.py and scroll down to like line 1800, you can find the function that does all the check-in stuff, right? And it's pretty simple. You can just see like what the post request accepts. And then I found pretty quickly, like it only wants like one or two things to be like a valid request, right? I think it needs like a serial number and like a name. But nothing yet. But actually, we're gonna have to make a ton of change, not a ton of changes. But the main challenge will probably be because Sal was built around Monkey, right? So it wants that P list. So we'll probably have to figure out like either A, we're gonna use P list on Windows, which I think might be weird, or B, like maybe fix Sal or something. I don't know. Probably the fix Sal thing.
So what are y'all going to use client side for Windows
Client side, what do you mean?
to like deploy the Go binary? You're going to use Puppet?
Oh yeah. The code I think was a snippet. Like so, if you like I said, if you just go to Mac admins and you look at Sal client for Puppet, we'll deploy the code with Puppet. Yeah.
So you deploy like all executables with Puppet.
Right. Yeah. So we have a repo called dig files, which we use to host files, and we don't do a whole lot with Windows right now, but it could probably expand. But yeah, basically, I mean, on the Windows side, we just Sam wrote a pretty neat bootstrapper, brings it right into Puppet, and then once you have control, you can just use Hyra to kind of determine like what you want to do. So
What kind of data do you hope to collect from the Windows devices?
all the data. No, so right now, pie in the sky, and I mean like it's a low sky, and we should probably do this right away. But so we want to do basically a complete vanilla factor run. And actually, what's cool about factor is like it just runs all the facts, right? It has like all of them have to work, right? So you guys might see like we kind of started sneaking code into Mac admins that like runs on Windows. Like I don't know if anyone like actually monitors that repo, but like you can see. And so I think like recently we just added one that will just kind of like look to see which packages are installed on the Windows machines. So we'll try and basically just get as much data as we possibly can because obviously data drives good decisions. So wait, were you trying to coax me into saying that it's going to work with Chef?
No.
Okay, I believe you. That was a bag on Graham, in case no one heard. What do you want from me? Everyone good? Okay. Solid. Thanks, guys. Welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, Brett, for sharing your hard work from your team. Obviously, thank you to Airbnb for being such a gracious host for us. Great food, great drink, great place to meet.
So we are still in need of hosts and speakers. So I've talked to many people tonight about, hey, we want to host, we want to host, we want to host. So that's amazing. Please go to macbrained.org/host, fill out the form. There's basic information we need from you from there. We'll get the conversation started, and then we will move from there. So please, 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 please fill it out. Speakers we will find. Brett did a wonderful job tonight. So thank you so much. Super special thanks to Graham. He's disappeared from that chair, but oh, he's in the back. Graham really pushed this forward, just so everyone knows. Graham reached out. Graham was like, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this. So special thanks to Graham, Airbnb, Brett, Chris. Wonderful host, so just thank you for everything. Appreciate everything. So the lovely question everyone probably is wondering about. So we've done this once, kind of the who, what, where, why. That is still to be determined. I've had a few conversations tonight. There is a potential to have something in September. It'll take a pretty quick turnaround, but I think we'll be able to make that happen, but we'll see from there. But we need everyone possible who can host. Please fill out the form, and then we will go from there. Otherwise, we have until 8 p.m., and then you don't have to go home, but you got to get up out of here by 8. Mars Bar, 8 till whenever you want. I'm old, so I will not be there. At least past, 9. But please, thank you. We appreciate your support for the community. Andrew and I just can't say enough. Thank you. Enjoy some conversation and some beers.
Thank you, everyone.